Hello, I'm Daniel Shadmy and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Another place where every word matters are negotiations. And when it comes to the Middle East, there are certainly many words being said, not all of them actually leading anywhere. According to the recent reports, the peace talks regarding the situation in Gaza may be on the verge of collapse. And there are frantic efforts to prevent these talks from being derailed, despite the fact that clearly the two sides, Israel and Hamas, are not really seeing eye to eye. So, where is it going to lead to? Well, we're going to find out in our conversation right now with our guest, Daniel Shadmy, spokesperson for ELNET-Israel. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So what is your assessment of where the peace talks stand right now? Reports suggest that things are getting difficult. Some of the demands of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are unacceptable for Hamas. On the other hand, others are saying that Hamas isn't really playing ball, that they are insisting on things which are simply unacceptable to the Israeli side. So what is your assessment of the situation?
It's a good question. My assessment is that Hamas is now headed by Yahya Sinwar, who's now sitting in Gaza, hiding in tunnels, and still holding 109 hostages for almost a year, for over 300 days. Sinwar's goal is the eradication of Israel. He has been saying it, and it's in Hamas's goals and objectives since its creation. I don't believe that Sinwar really wants a ceasefire as much as he needs one, because obviously the Gaza Strip is in dire conditions after 10 months of war. But the hostages that he's holding, both some of them are alive and dead, are his last negotiating peace. Now, there is a straight linkage between the aggressions that Israel has been living through in the north from Hezbollah and the threats from Iran. And Sinwar knows it very well. If there is a ceasefire deal, Hezbollah might just stop its aggression towards Israel, as it has said so in the past. And during the November ceasefire, it also has halted its firing of missiles and aggression towards Israel. So Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, as you just said very rightly so earlier, has said Israel has accepted most of the bridging terms from the United States. And now it's on the court. The ball is in Hamas's court, and it doesn't seem to be willing to actually agree to a ceasefire and release the hostages.
So on the other hand, of course, we have opinions suggesting that, well, when it comes to the humanitarian situation, the ball is in Israel's court, and this is due to the casualty statistics. We, of course, need to remember that these statistics are given by the Palestinian side. However, 40,000 people killed. This is the overall estimate. Many of them civilians. It doesn't really look good, right? So the question is right now whether Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to withstand this ongoing pressure from commentators, world leaders saying that, well, whatever Israel wants to achieve, and it has a right to actually strike back at Hamas following the deadly terrorist attack last year, which claimed the lives of over 1,200 people living peacefully in their communities until the terrorists came and killed them all, taking some of them hostages. Still, the question is how Israel is going about the manner in which this is achieved. And some are saying, well, this is too much. We need a ceasefire to help those people on the ground.
Yes, it's very much so. And the casualty number is definitely devastating, especially when it includes civilian lives. Every death is a tragedy, but unfortunately, sometimes at war, these things happen, and it's atrocious. And it's been 10 months of a very violent war, and it's definitely time to halt it. But we must make sure that Hamas has loses its capabilities in order to not be able to do an October 7 once more. So the pressure to stop the war and to have an end to these hostilities is correct, because at the end of the day, neither civilian Israelis or civilian Palestinians want the war to continue. But one of the conditions for the ceasefire and what Israel has been pushing for is the fact that Hamas will lose its ability to rearm and to regain strength. And one of them is, as you rightly mentioned earlier in your overview, is the access of oxygen, let's call it, from either the Philadelphia corridor or other tunnels and ways of rearming Hamas. And so the pressure is very high, but there needs to be a way where a democratic state defending its borders, as you said, does not allow a terrorist organization that is also harming its own civilians, but also a democratic country does not get to rearm itself.
Are you concerned that the peace talks may collapse, and after that Iran will actually lose the argument to suspend its plan for retaliation? Are you concerned that this could lead to a broader conflict whereby Iran is joined by Hezbollah and other terrorist groups in an all-out attack against Israel?
The short answer is yes, although I would say that I don't think that Iran is interested in an all-out war. They know that in such a scenario, they will see a coalition by the West, led by the United States and European countries, and also some regional partners that Israel has here in the Middle East. And nobody wants that. The show of strength that the United States have done since the, let's say, rising of tensions in the past couple of weeks just deterred Iran from retaliating against what allegedly happened by Israel in Tehran and the assassination of one of the Hezbollah leaders in Beirut by the IDF. What I am more worried about is the more straight linkage between Hamas and Hezbollah. Hezbollah just yesterday fired 50 rockets towards a civilian neighborhood city, Katzrin, in the Golan Heights. This is what is more worrying on a day-to-day right now in Israel, where Hezbollah has straightly opened another front towards Israel on October 8th. So it's not necessarily a retaliation from their end, but a continuation of aggression that has been going on for 10 months. So as much as I don't see Iran retaliating just now, Hezbollah might, let's say, aggravate its aggression towards Israel.
And how are the ongoing peace efforts perceived in Israel right now? There have been some critical comments regarding the way Antony Blinken has handled this. Apparently, for example, some Arab officials are saying that he has been pushing this narrative that we have a peace plan, Israel is on board already, so Hamas is the only one that is actually making problems there. Well, regardless of whether this is actually true, because as you said, it might be, some said that the way it was handled was far from perfect.
Listen, in the Middle East, diplomacy is always, and unfortunately, I believe the future also will be far from perfect. But the way it is handled, it's very complex. We have so many regional actors that are involved in it, but the United States has for a long time stood by Israel and is really aiming for a ceasefire and wants it maybe even a little bit more than certain regional partners here. But what we can say is that it's sometimes hard to grasp that on the same balance there's a democratic state and terrorist organizations that are being put on the same scale on a negotiating kind of table. The United States has been trying to mediate and find bridging solutions, but it's very important to remember that there is one side that is, again, there's a decision-making process and compromise that can be held. And on the other side, an irrational terrorist organization headed by Yahya Sinwar. So it's far from perfect, but there's always room for more pressure on those who thrive to kill and oppress. That's on my end.
So you're saying more pressure, but what about trying to take away the oxygen from Hamas in ways other than military action? Do you think that perhaps some sort of peace plan, which would basically aim to accommodate the needs of the general public in the Gaza Strip, could actually work there? I mean, of course, it is a long shot. Nevertheless, it is about making them not need Hamas anymore. Right now, they believe that, well, they need Hamas to survive. Many of them would say, we need Hamas because it stands for our interests. Do you think that a plan that could make the situation so much better for the public that they would turn away from Hamas is still possible at this stage, also given the degree of destruction to the Gaza Strip?
Most definitely. And if there's one thing that international partners, especially European partners and international organizations, even though the UN has been very biased in this matter, but if there's a way to make funds and help not get to Hamas. Humanitarian aid has been entering the Gaza Strip in hundreds of tons facilitated by the IDF, but as soon as it enters Gaza, Hamas takes a hold of it and holds it is responsible for the distribution to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. If there is, as part of a ceasefire plan, a way that the international community can guarantee that Hamas is no longer in power there, and they are the ones in charge of, at least in an interim period, of redistributing and reconstructing and rebuilding Gaza in a way where they're not taught to hate, or funds will go to infrastructure that is schools, hospitals, and maybe civilian infrastructure like roads, electricity, water, and not towards tunnels of terror.
Of course, in the meantime, the peace process remains fragile. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for them being, but we'll be returning to the matter very soon indeed. Daniel Shadmy was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Daniel Shadmy. You're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us.